Scientists already fear that we are not only polluting the Earth, but we are also polluting other planets while struggling to save ours. It seems our bad habits have spread to our nearest neighbor, even without ever stepping foot on the red planet. It's crazy to think that humans haven't been to Mars yet, but we have already managed to dump over 7,000 kilograms of trash on Mars. Even though Elon Musk has worked tirelessly to make humans a multiplanetary species by putting humans on the red planet, Mars is still a distant dream for us. But it looks like we already marked our presence on the planet without ever stepping foot on it with human-generated waste. This ironically can be considered as our first step to make it look more like Earth. Joking aside, these are a lot more serious than you think, so keep watching till the end to know more. Over the course of 50 years of exploration, humans left behind a considerable amount of debris on the surface of Mars. According to the United Nations Office for Outer Space Affairs, nations have dispatched 18 human-made objects to Mars across 14 different missions, many of which are still in progress. On Mars, there are three main sources of debris: discarded hardware, inactive spacecraft, and crashed spacecraft. A big glittering thermal blanket was discovered by the Perseverance rover on June 13, 2022, about 1.25 miles or 2 kilometers away from where it had landed. Both the Opportunity and Curiosity rovers in 2005 and 2012 respectively came across debris from their landing vehicles. Around 9 inactive spacecraft on the surface of Mars make up another type of debris. These spacecraft include the Mars 3 lander, Mars 6 lander, Viking 1 lander, Viking 2 lander, and several others. Another major source of debris are fragments of destroyed spacecraft. At least 2 spacecraft have already crashed, while 4 more have lost contact just prior to or immediately following the landing. The most challenging aspect of any Mars mission is safely descending into the planet's surface, and most of the time it may not go as smoothly as planned. The combined mass of every spacecraft that has ever been deployed to Mars is about 22,000 pounds, or about 9,979 kilograms. There are about 15,694 pounds, or about 7,119 kilograms of human debris on Mars, after deducting the 6,306 pounds, or about 2,860 kilograms, of the currently operational craft that's on the surface. This trash could tamper with the samples that the rovers collect from Mars, making it hard for us to study about the presence of life on this red planet. The global space race comes at a cost because exploration missions and anti-satellite missile tests, along with accidental collisions, continue to add to millions of pieces of trash already orbiting the Earth. For those of you who don't know, space junk are artificial objects left by humans in space that no longer serve a purpose. Space debris, on the other hand, is a more gentle term that is referring to both meteorites and orbital debris. According to the European Space Agency, we already have 9,300 tons of materials that have accumulated over 60 years of space activity, and these are currently orbiting the Earth. Some of these pieces of space junk include dead satellites, while some of them are as small as paint flecks that have fallen off during rocket launches. Some of these floating trash piles include bizarre objects like a spatula. Yes, a spatula. The true danger lies in the buildup of space junk, especially the smaller pieces. NASA scientist Donald Kessler warned about this accumulation of waste in 1978. He stated that the debris will continue to multiply as objects collide and create new pieces. This is now known as the Kessler syndrome. If the chain reaction continues, the Earth's orbit will become totally unusable. So what exactly is Kessler syndrome? Well, this was an idea proposed by NASA scientist Donald Kessler, where he stated that if there was too much space junk in orbit, it could result in a chain reaction where more and more objects collide and create new space junk in the process, to a point where the Earth's orbit would become totally unstable. Such a situation would be extreme. Experts worry that something similar could happen one day, which makes sense because companies are preparing to launch more satellites, especially Elon Musk's Starlink project and OneWeb satellite constellation. More satellites in near-Earth space, you could only expect more space debris, and this can cause a lot of problems. More space junk that we have around our planet lies in the low Earth orbit, which is the area between 160 kilometers and 1,000 kilometers above Earth. Due to its proximity to Earth, the low Earth orbit is commonly used on satellite imaging, and this is also home to the International Space Station. NASA describes the low Earth orbit as an orbital space junkyard, making this by far one of the biggest threats that the International Space Station has to deal with because of potential catastrophic collisions. Along Along with the space junk, there are more than 4,550 operational satellites, along with 3,000 non-functional ones. NASA and other space agencies already have several monitoring systems in place to prevent collisions. The United States Department of Defense monitors more than 29,000 cataloged objects with a combination of optical and radar sensors known as the Space Surveillance Network. NASA launched the International Space Station Orbital Debris Collision Avoidance Process in 1979 to assist with monitoring and keeping the International Space Station crew safe. According to this plan, the Joint Space Operations Center will be monitoring debris based on radar tracking using the Space Surveillance Network and screens the International Space Station trajectory multiple times per day. But the problem lies with the fact that such a system can only detect objects that are larger than 5 to 10 centimeters in low Earth orbit and 30 centimeters to 1 meter at geostationary altitudes. We have more than 36,500 objects in orbit that are greater than 10 centimeters and about 1 million objects that are between 1 to 10 centimeters and about 330 million that are about 1 to 10 millimeters. According to the European Space Agency, the problem lies with the fact that this space junk moves at extremely dangerous speeds, reaching as high as 28,960 kilometers per hour, which is 7 times faster than a bullet, according to NASA. The high speed and the huge number of debris can cause huge damage, even the smallest one, which can be a serious threat to future space exploration and operation. Space junk will remain in orbit unless it re-enters the atmosphere, where it will be broken down by the harsh space conditions, or it is removed manually. Some objects in lower orbit can return after a few years and mostly burn up before they even reach the ground. But then there is a lot of space junk at altitudes higher than 36,000 kilometers that will continue to circle the Earth for hundreds or even thousands of years. By quickly removing such satellites from orbit after the mission is complete, these space agencies could prevent the risk of collisions resulting in further space junk. One way to remove these inactive satellites from orbit is by pulling them down into the Earth's atmosphere, where they will burn up. The European Space Agency developed a strategy to accomplish this, known as Clear Space 1, which will be launched in 2025. This is designed to capture and dispose of space junk. This is huge, considering the fact that space exploration is just getting exciting, with so many companies wanting to go way beyond our planet to explore more of our solar system, and even beyond that in the future. The removal process can also be done with magnets. We have a Japanese-based orbital debris removal company, Astroscale, that developed ELSA-D, or End-of-Life Service, by Astroscale Demonstration, which consists of 2 spacecrafts that work together to latch onto and capture pieces of debris stuck in orbit. Astroscale is here to deal with one of the major challenges of debris removal, which is docking with or capturing the objects in orbit, as they already presented us with a successful demonstration of the ELSA-D on August 25, 2021. Another way to get rid of space debris will be with the help of a system of active debris removal, which uses lasers to heat up the satellite and increase its atmospheric drag or push debris out of the way. Australian company Electro-Optic Systems unveiled their laser technology that will nudge the junk out of the orbit, but these processes are generally expensive and they're only useful for large pieces like non-functional satellites. But even with all the technology that we have today, we still cannot address the bigger problem, which would be the tiny debris, as we still have no way to clean those up. The only way to eliminate them would be by waiting for them to naturally re-enter Earth's atmosphere. It can also be done by making sure that satellites are removed from the orbit in a reasonable amount of time once they're no longer active. This might be our only way to mitigate the problem of space junk in the future. We heavily depend on satellites for communication and so much more. Therefore, it is extremely important for us to use our space sustainably so that our future generations will be able to enjoy its benefits.